Welcome back to another explainer. Today we're exploring what our source documents claim is a glaring logistical impossibility, one that's masking a pretty terrifying mechanical reality operating silently beneath our feet. We're going to unpack this incredibly elaborate narrative woven through declassified patents and intelligence documents, mapping the collision between modern subterranean engineering and alleged ancient underground architecture. So let's just dive right into this. Think about it for a second, because it really is the ultimate logistical bottleneck. The sources we're examining assert the existence of continent-spanning deep underground military bases, or dumps. But if you're building an entire city miles beneath the Earth's crust, where on Earth does all the dirt go? I mean, why don't commercial and spy satellites ever capture massive convoys of dump trucks or miles-long tailing piles? It's a massive physical discrepancy, right?
Well, conventional civilian tunnel-boring machines are incredibly loud, they're slow, and they create literal mountains of messy debris, or what they call muck, that requires miles and miles of conveyor belts to haul away. But our sources describe a hyper-advanced alternative. It's basically the ultimate, highly classified DIY home renovation tool, the Nuclear Subterrane. We're talking about a machine that is silent, autonomous, and crucially leaves absolutely zero excavated debris. Now, you might be wondering, how is that even possible?
Now, this isn't just science fiction. We can actually anchor this narrative in cold, hard reality. 3,693,731. That is the exact unclassified receipt from the United States Patent Office, officially granted on September 26, 1972.
The paper trail here is just fascinating. The Department of Energy and a Los Alamos scientific laboratory, the literal birthplace of the atomic bomb, they proudly patented a series of blueprints for these exact machines. We're looking at patents for a method of tunneling by melting, equipment with an onboard nuclear core, and even directional steering. So according to these patents, the deep state didn't haul the rock away, they literally melted it into glass.
Section 1. The Thermodynamics of the Melt. Phase Change. Let's examine the undeniably real physics that allegedly power these underground penetrators.
To understand how the subterrane actually works, we have to look at the absolute laws of thermodynamics. The subterrane utilizes a compact nuclear reactor and a liquid lithium heat pipe. This system essentially weaponizes thermodynamics, generating enough heat energy, represented by Q in the phase change equation, to overcome the latent heat of fusion, which is that L sub F part. When this happens, it mathematically forces a phase change, turning solid bedrock and quartz-rich granite directly into liquid magma.
And here is the really crazy part. This machine doesn't actually dig. First, the onboard reactor heats a conical tungsten penetrator to extreme temperatures, exceeding 1500 degrees Celsius. Next, it overcomes that latent heat of fusion we just talked about, melting the solid stone right in its path into liquid magma. Finally, using immense hydraulic pressure, the machine simply pushes that molten rock outward radially.
And that brings us to the terrifying simplicity of its operation. As the machine pushes forward, the displaced magma cools instantly against the surrounding Earth. The result? A perfectly smooth, glass-lined obsidian tunnel. This entirely solves the two greatest problems of underground construction simultaneously. There is absolutely zero debris to haul to the surface, and the tunnel itself is structurally invulnerable, requiring no heavy concrete reinforcement. Plus, it operates in total silence.
Section 2. Project 8200 and the Agartha Network. Now, our source material pivots to a pretty astonishing claim about the mind-bending reason this technology was deployed in the first place.
The sources draw a direct line through this really fascinating chronological overlap. Look at this. In 1952, a hidden temple beneath the Sphinx was supposedly cataloged. Then, in 1972, literally the exact same year the Los Alamos Subterrane was patented, the intelligence apparatus launched Project Stargate at the Stanford Research Institute. By 1984, the CIA was tasking remote viewers with auditing ancient, off-world coordinates. The text suggests they were actively mapping ancient underground architecture.
Take this unredacted CIA transcript, document ending in 001-9. Back in 1984, the CIA's premier remote viewer, Joseph McMoneagle, was given target coordinates on Mars set 1 million years in the past. When he was instructed to look inside the structures, he explicitly described acoustic hydraulic physics, a massive generator with intersecting water channels.
The source narrative asserts the CIA was deliberately auditing the exact power plant mechanics underlying the Giza Plateau right here on Earth.
Concurrently, according to the documents, Captain Skip Atwater ran a highly classified subprogram known as Project 8200. The military allegedly utilized coordinate remote viewing to map out a massive, pre-existing global Agartha network of deep underground bases. They identified matching subterranean generator nodes buried all over the Earth. The intelligence community knew the Giza subterranean system actually connected to a much larger pre-Diluvian grid.
Section 3. The Archonic Quarantine. Let's zoom out to reveal the cosmic and neurobiological implications of this subterranean architecture, as outlined by the source text.
So why the obsession? The sources state that the ultimate reason the intelligence apparatus is obsessed with these ancient chambers lies in neurobiology. And it literally all revolves around this exact number, 110. This is the resonant frequency, in hertz, that allegedly governs these ancient megalithic underground temples.
The physics behind that number are just fascinating. Using the acoustic wave equation, lambda equals v over f, if you divide the speed of sound by 110 hertz, you get an acoustic wavelength of exactly 3.12 meters. The source material references comprehensive 2008 MRI scans and neuroscientific studies, stating that the interior dimensions of these ancient chambers were mathematically constructed as exact multiples of this 3.12-meter wavelength. This essentially turns the stone architecture into a giant psychoacoustic Helmholtz resonator that powerfully amplifies the 110 Hz signal.
The biological impact of this is profound. According to the text, when a human is exposed to this 110 Hz standing wave, the frequency mathematically suppresses the analytical left temporal lobe and hyperactivates the prefrontal cortex. This specific frequency is engineered to force the human brain out of a low-frequency survival state, what the text calls an archonic state, and initiates heightened, coherent consciousness.
And this is where we see the crucial contrast in technologies, spanning millennia. On one side, you have the ancient builders. The sources claim they utilized acoustic resonance and ultrasonic cavitation, basically vibrating tools at high frequencies to physically shatter the atomic lattice of stone with incredibly elegant precision. On the other side, you have the modern breach. The modern military-industrial complex relies on brute force thermal hacking, using nuclear thermodynamics and 1500-degree heat to just forcefully melt their way in.
Which leads us to a pretty dark conclusion presented in the source documents. The military mapped this ancient Agartha network with remote viewing, and they reverse-engineered the physics. But instead of opening it, the text asserts the deep state is actively deploying their nuclear subterraneans to literally weld the original pre-Diluvian door shut. The goal, according to this narrative, is to ensure the architecture can never be reactivated, keeping a localized frequency quarantine over humanity absolute and unbroken. Which leaves us with a chilling question, one that completely recontextualizes the ground beneath our feet. If the claims in these documents are true, if thermodynamic nuclear boring machines are actively being used to map, hijack, and seal an ancient, frequency-elevating subterranean survival grid, what else has this quarantine locked away in the dark? It's a truly fascinating look at how classified engineering patents and deep-state conspiracy narratives overlap to create a deeply complex underworld. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it gave you a lot to think about.